Britain is an island nation. We've always lost some of our land to coastal erosion, but now really tough choices are having to be made about what we can defend and what we can't. Much of Britain's coastline is crumbling. Within this 10-mile stretch of the North Norfolk coast, more than 800 homes are expected to be lost to the sea in the next 80 years. In Harmsby, some residents don't have to wait for that fate.
My house was beyond those people you can see in the distance there, and that's now gone.
Where Kevin's home stood is now a void, and some neighbouring properties went the same way. He hoped it would stand for a good 80 years, but by March last year he noticed the dunes were vanishing more rapidly.
I thought our days were numbered where we were, but I hadn't got a clue of what I could do because I put everything into my retirement home. That was my asset. I had nowhere else to go. I've got no family here.
Take a look at this shot from almost exactly 1 year ago, and now the present day. See how much has gone in just 12 months. And it isn't just the east coast that's suffering. According to a survey using government data, 21 villages and hamlets in England will lose more than £500 million worth of residential property to coastal erosion by 2100. On the Isle of Wight, landslides are a daily occurrence. This one happened in front of our eyes. It's on the southwest coast, and two other stretches of the island's coastline are slipping away, hastened by water from above as well as below. It's not just the sea that's undermining the coastline here, it's also the rain. Some parts of Britain have had double their normal rainfall of late, and that helps to undermine these cliffs. So bits like this will shortly no longer be part of the British Isles. Angela Terry is an environmental scientist who's researched what's at risk from erosion.
It's just going to keep falling.
And how we work out what to save.
Well, this is a recent chunk of Britain that's going to the sea.
Yeah, and it's increasing. So we know with sea level rise and climate change and bigger storms, the coast is washing away far faster than it ever has before. It's absolutely impossible to build a seawall around the whole of the coast. We've got the largest coastline in Europe, and it's constantly evolving. So this is where this debate about which communities will be saved and which ones literally, when the cliffs crumble, they will be gone.
Currently, money is allocated according to the value of what's being protected. Sensible in one way, as cities with big economies and big populations get big seawalls. But in rural areas, it can mean expensive homes owned by the wealthy are defended, but cheaper housing isn't deemed worth it.
If an area is very poor and not worth much, then how can they justify spending all that money to defend those homes?
What do you think about that equation at the moment?
Climate change is the most unjust thing in the world anyway, and this is just the sharpest example of it. People losing their homes and having nowhere else to go. They've lost everything, and there's no compensation for them.
History and heritage are vanishing too. Just above the cliffs where I was talking to Angela lies the Military Road, an iconic tourist trail on the island with, on most days, some stunning views. It's now just 5 metres from the cliff. Locals are fighting to save it.
Some people might say, well, it's just a road, it's not someone's house. Why should we protect this?
It's a road which is a critical transport link, obviously, but it's also iconic. It's iconic to the island, it brings tourism. There was an economic analysis which showed that it was worth tens of millions of pounds to the economy. If you see pictures of the Isle of Wight, this road and the view from here, when it's not raining of course, is one of those views which is used all the time.
Back in North Norfolk, we've come to Hazra, a historic village also teetering on the edge of the sea, and the fear is, in coming years, irreplaceable landmarks will go.
This village is 1,000 years old at least, and it's got 18 listed buildings. The next buildings at risk are the Norman Church, the 16th century pub, and the lighthouse, which is now the only privately run lighthouse in the country. It's unique. But they've no value because we don't value our heritage. So if people really do want to chuck 1,000 years of history into the sea with no qualms and don't value our heritage at all, then they need to know that's what's going to happen.
Down the road from Clive's pub, the sea is getting closer. Bryony's house is next in line, and her next home could be her motorhome.
You know, in the middle of the night when I get up to go to the loo and look out of the window and I think I'm not going to have this much longer. I'm not going to have the comfort of carpets under my feet and central heating. It's quite depressing, actually. I mean, seriously depressing.
Many of Norfolk's coastal dwellers we spoke to feel they've been abandoned by government.
We recognise that we need to increase the level of funding that we're putting in, not only for flooding, but also coastal erosion. So over the next 6-year funding programme, we're increasing that nationally from 2.6 billion to 5.2 billion, with specifically more money being allocated to Norfolk.
Coastal erosion is a natural process, but now being accelerated by humanity's pollution. So more of us are now paying the price. Tom Heap, Sky News.